Hello and welcome to the Becoming Your Highest Self podcast. I'm your host, Macy Renee, and we are going on a journey together, my friend. If you've been looking for a podcast geared towards your growth, self-awareness, navigating your brain's daily mind drama, and deep inner work to become your highest and best self, you are in the perfect place. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Becoming Your Highest Self podcast. I'm excited to have you back. Today we are going to be diving into the topic of energy and how this affects you and what it means. But before we get there, I hope that all of you are having a good weekend. By the time you hear this, the weekend will have been over. I did think about dropping it before because I get so anxious to release these episodes because I get excited, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try and be consistent in that I release them every single Monday. So you're going to have to wait. So by the time that you hear this, hopefully you had an amazing weekend. I am still waiting on my fall weather. I really, really, really want it to be sweater weather, but we're just not there yet. I was looking at the forecast. It's going to be in the 90s and it's going to get as low as 77, but I don't even think that qualifies as sweater weather, more like capris and a cute, flowy top. That'll be a really good day. I am looking forward to that. But at the same time, I don't want to rush away this hot weather because I am someone that definitely, my mood is elevated when it's sunny outside, when I can be in nature, when I can put my feet in the grass and ground, when I can have the windows open, or just be outside on the porch and hear the birds and everything's green. I struggle. I struggle in the winter time. I think I need a happy light. If you don't know what those are, they're like this special light that's supposed to elevate your mood, and they actually do work, but I don't have one. However, I used to work at a physical therapy clinic years and years ago where she had a happy light for the patients because some of the patients would be depressed, it would get dark at 5 o'clock, which totally depresses me as well. So she had a happy light in her office, and sometimes I would walk into her office and be immediately happy again. So I've seen them on Amazon in case you're that person like me. My husband tends to tease me sometimes because if all the blinds are shut in the house, the first thing that I do in the morning is open all of the blinds. And he will be like, it's miraculous to me to see your mood change when you see sunlight, because he likes the dark. He likes sitting in the dark. My mom is that same way. Even my grandpa, they all like the blind shut, and I cannot function in that way. I need happy sunshine, green, good weather to be able to sit outside, listen to the birds, all of that. So I'm going to soak in even this 95-degree heat in September/October, because I know when winter comes and it's dark at 5 o'clock, I am going to feel completely different. And I always feel like winter lasts for oh my gosh, it always feels in my mind like it lasts for 8 months. And realistically, it's 3 to 4 months of my life, but it seriously feels sometimes like it's 8 months of the year. And then summer, spring, and fall are all over with in a 2-month time span. That's what it feels like in my head. So anyways, I hope that you're enjoying whatever the weather is, wherever you're at. And That's all I have for you today as far as randomness. Oh, I do have some exciting things coming up in my business. Y'all have to stay tuned for that, but I'll keep you posted as well. So let's dive in today and talk about energy. This is such a fun topic for me. I love this. I absolutely love science. Those were always my favorite classes in school growing up, English and science. But then as I got older, I was kind of less interested in English and more so just give me all the science knowledge. I love understanding psychology and how the mind works. I love knowing about the universe and everything happening with that. And so I just love everything science related, and energy is one of those topics that really interests me, especially when I learned how to apply energy with personal development. That all blew my mind. So we're going to talk about that today. So a lot of times I will come across people who feel like they're not the greatest at understanding energy. And it's one of those things that's really more about it being something that you can feel, not something that you can see. And so I'm going to give a lot of examples today around energy because I think that I don't know that everybody knows this, so we'll just talk about it and how it relates to your growth and personal development and becoming your highest self. And it might even have to be a 2-part series. We'll just see how much information I can get in because I do like to keep the episodes a little bit shorter, around 30 or so minutes, just to make sure that people can listen to them on maybe a commute to work or, walking around the neighborhood or doing whatever you've got to do. So with that being said, I will just start off with energy. Like, we are all made up of energy. So you're made up of energy. I'm made up of energy. Everything in the world is made up of energy. So we can't see all of those molecules and atoms floating around, but every single thing that you see in your life holds an energy. So even out in nature, like the blades of grass, right? The plants, every single thing is energy. So we're all energetic beings, and that's what connects us all with each other. And a lot of times people are like, yeah, well, I don't really understand that. So I'm going to give you a real life example of how you can pinpoint ways that you are actually in tune with energy more than you think or believe. So let's just say that a couple invites you over for a party at their house. They're going to have wine and cheese. We're going to hang out. We're going to talk, all of that. 15 minutes before this party is supposed to start and before you're set to arrive, the couple gets into this blowout, massive argument, and they are screaming at each other. They're aggravated with each other, and they don't really have a lot of time to resolve it and apologize to each other before the guests arrive. So you ring the doorbell, and as soon as you answer, or as soon as that person answers the door, whether they're smiling or not, you more than likely are going to feel that something is off. Something is not quite right. So they could hug you and say, welcome to our home. We're so happy to have you, and seem like everything's good. But your body is going to tell you otherwise. Your body is going to feel the tension. So think of any time in your life where you've walked into a room and you're like, oh my, because the energy feels weird, right? The energy feels totally off, and you're kind of like, something's not right. Were they just arguing? Were they just fighting? Is everything okay? Are you okay? Like, what is happening here? I know that I have been in that situation multiple times, or I've been in situations where maybe an argument breaks out while I'm there, and then you can feel the tension, like afterwards. You could cut it with a knife because it feels so awkward. And I laugh about this because I am a Libra, like my sun sign, right? My horoscope. I don't look into a lot of it, but I do know that about myself, and there are qualities I definitely relate to. And so I'm a Libra. So my birthday is coming up on October 10th. I'll be 28. And I have to just laugh because part of being a Libra is that we like balance. We don't like to be kind of offset by confrontation or conflict. And so when people are arguing or have disagreements with each other, or there's very strong conversations that might cause people to have differences, a Libra is very much out of their comfort zone because we love life balance. We're the scales. So I have some friends that are also Libras that understand this deeply into their core. And whenever I'm around someone who's arguing, if I'm also with those friends that are Libras, we will just like hold our little hands out as if we're a scale and tip over completely one way. And I'll just be like, oh gosh, my scales are tipping. I can't deal with the arguing. I just want everybody to love each other and get along and see compassion and understanding in the world. Like, we are all world peace. Please just let us have our peace. So I totally am an empath in the sense that I feel energy over anything. Like, people could talk to me until they're blue in the face, trying to make me believe something that they're saying. And energetically, I'm going to be able to feel if they are full of crap. I mean, I am in tune with people's energy like you would not believe, especially as someone who has a background as a Reiki master teacher. So I don't practice my Reiki as much as I used to, like as far as on clients. I do it on me all the time, but as a Reiki energy healer, we're super in tune with energy. And a fun fact too, I completed massage school earlier this year, and as a massage therapist, so if you're a body worker and you work with people, doing body work of any kind, you get very in tune with people's energy as well. So it's just very interesting, but I wanted to give you that example because a lot of times, we think that we're not good at understanding or reading people's energy, but I know that there have been situations probably in your life where you've walked into a room and you can cut the tension with a knife and you can feel that something's off. Same thing with if you're a parent and you're very connected with your children. Sometimes you get that gut feeling like something's wrong or something's about to go wrong, right? And then you try to talk yourself out of it and your intuition is telling you otherwise. And then all of a sudden this thing goes down, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I could feel it in my gut. And I've had several situations like that too in my life where something just doesn't feel quite right. And it can be difficult because sometimes our mind does sabotage us. That's part of what we're talking about in the podcast, is that sometimes we have subconscious wired thoughts that do not serve us and therefore make us think things that aren't true. So it can be a little bit tricky in dealing with energy and understanding energy. Is this just a thought that's making me feel this way, or is this actually my energy and intuition telling me otherwise? And so I've definitely had some situations in my life where something has felt wrong or off and I ignore it and it persists, and then it ends up that something really was wrong. So anyways, that's a little bit of background on, energy. But one thing that I do want to point out too is how energetically sometimes we can call things into our life that we really don't want. So several years ago, I was at kind of a personal development coaching mini retreat, I guess you would say. It was like 2 or 3 days. And one of the coaches there was talking about how we all hold energy, which I knew, and how our thoughts can really dictate the energy that we put out in the world. And it's very, very true. Like whatever you're focused on grows. That's a quote. What you focus on grows, it expands. And it's very, very true because your mind doesn't understand the difference between what is real versus what is imaginary. So in terms of if you're a big dreamer, whether you are or aren't, when you get your mind set on something, if you begin to believe that that is going to happen for you, right? Like let's say you want this specific car, let's just say that, and you're thinking about the car all the time. You think about how it would feel to be driving that car. You get into your car, whatever model that is, and instead of being in the actual model that you're in, you start thinking like, this is my dream car, right? Maybe you want a Mercedes. I don't know. I'm just making something up. But this is a Mercedes. I can't wait to be in a Mercedes. Whenever I go to the lot to pick out my Mercedes, I'm going to be wearing this and I'm going to look like this, and I'm going to get a picture next to my car, and it's going to be red on the outside and black interior on the inside, and it's going to have this, and this. Your mind doesn't understand the difference between what is real and what is imaginary. And so energetically, you start putting yourself in a position where your brain really believes that it has this Mercedes way before it actually does. And what happens is energetically, you begin to call that in, okay? That's kind of like, it's a part of the law of attraction, a part of manifestation. If you're not familiar with that, we'll talk about that another episode. But the more that you believe that to be true before it happens, the more you're calling it in. And next thing you know, you're driving off the lot in a Mercedes, right? We always get stuck on how is that going to happen? The how is actually not important at all. It's about the energy that you're calling into your life. So that's a way that I can describe it to you as far as manifestation principles, right? And law of attraction principles. However, the basic understanding of this that I really want you to focus on is how we do this on accident, quote unquote accident, when we don't really want it, okay? So back to all of us having an energetic vibration and frequency. This is how you operate in your life, right? And how you vibrate in the world, how you operate energetically in the world comes from your knowledge, your past experiences, your mindset, the things that you've been taught, your beliefs, the things that you do, the actions that you take, and a lot of those principles that we talked about in the beginning of the podcast. So like circumstances, thoughts, feelings, actions, results, all of that contributes as well to your energetic frequency. And the reason that I'm teaching you this stuff is because if you have the tools of understanding energetically how things work, in addition to how your mindset works, you can change your life and call in and have anything that you want. But first you have to be willing to do the inner work. And in order to do the inner work, you need to understand a lot of this stuff. So I hope that Becoming Your High Self podcast is teaching you a lot of principles that are going to help you make very powerful decisions moving forward in your day-to-day life. Does that make sense? So back to energy and how all of this works. We are all made of energy. We all have a vibration and frequency based on our life experiences, our circumstances, how we look at those things, all of that, okay? And we have a vibrational frequency that matches up to other things, okay? So what I mean by this is if you, think about your friends, for instance. More than likely, your friends are a lot like you, okay? You all are interested in the same things. You all like to do a lot of the same things. You are maybe in the same predicaments as each other. You know, there could be some differences, but for the most part, your all's lifestyle looks very similar, and your interests and desires and the path that you want to take maybe looks a little bit similar. And that's because all of you in that group are operating at the same vibrational frequency, right? That's what drew you into each other. And so that's a part of how energy works in one way, is that we are attracted to the people that are operating at the same frequency as us. Those tend to be the people that we surround ourselves with the most because we relate to them, we understand them on a deeper level, right? And it's really because energetically we're all operating at the same frequency. I'm doing a lot of hand movement and you can't see it, but when I explain this to the clients that I coach, my hand movements are very helpful. So I hope that you're able to follow along with me in this podcast. So what happens is too, if let's say you come across someone who has a life that you really desire, but you're not quite there yet, like they're doing really great things and you get this little twinge in your system that's like, I would really like to have some of the things that they have or experience some of the things that they're experiencing, but I don't know how to get there. And you have recognition that it might be possible for you, but that means that you're going to have to operate at a different level. So energetically, they are at a different vibrational frequency than even you are, okay? So part of getting to where they are is to shift and change and shift and change and shift and change until you match their vibrational frequency, which can happen by surrounding yourself more and more with them and getting to their level, right? And then what you will find is energetically you start attracting and building a life that looks much more similar to them. Now, I see this in real life all the time. Especially like with my clients who start doing personal development work and inner work. So let's just say on a number scale, I'm just going to use numbers because I keep using my hands and you can't see me. So let's say on a vibrational frequency, you're at a 3, okay? You're at a 3. You've never had personal development before. You're just maybe a baby in it. You're learning a little bit about what it is, but you're not totally into it. And so most of your friends are also at a level 3, okay? And this is just vibrational frequency. We're just making it up since you can't see my hand movement. Okay, and then the person that has a life that you really, really want is operating at a vibration of a 7. And so you've got this distance of being a 3, wanting to be a 7, and you're like, okay, well, their lifestyle looks very different than mine. What do I need to do in order to get to that 7? So you start hanging around them. And when you're hanging around them, they're around their group of 7s, right? So what happens is energetically, naturally, over time, you start to operate like that of a 7, and you start to increase your vibrational frequency. And so you move from a 3 to a 4, and then a 4 to a 5, and a 5 to a 6, and then eventually a 6 to a 7. And then what normally happens is all of your friends who are still operating at a vibration of 3 start to feel, and this is the important thing, right? They start to feel the changes in your all's friendship. Like the friendship feels differently because you're now operating at a 7 when you used to be operating at their vibrational frequency of a 3. And this is where in real life, friends will get very frustrated sometimes with their BFF, right? Because they're like, you've changed. You're a different person. You don't hang out with us anymore. You don't talk to us anymore. Everything's changed for you. You act like you're too good for us, or you're too this for us, or, we don't relate to each other anymore, right? Have you ever heard that? Have you ever experienced that? And it's just because you're having shifts in your life, like you're opening yourself up to new ways or new information or new experiences. And then you have a set of people who become very frustrated with you because the way that they once knew you is no longer how you operate. That's energy. That's what I really want you to understand. That's energy. Energetically, you shifted into the person that's now operating as this quote unquote 7. All your friends are still at a 3, and maybe they don't even have a desire to be a 7. Or one person from your group of friends desires to also be where you're at. That means their energy is going to have to shift to get in the same energetic vibration. And then maybe the rest of those friends think that they're being fake, or, that they've left them in the dust and all of that. And so usually that strong energetic response from our friends comes from the fact that they can feel the change, they feel the shift, they felt the energy move. They can't describe exactly what you've done that's different, and it comes out in frustration because they're no longer operating at that same vibrational frequency as you. And sometimes that does cause a lot of turmoil in relationships. And so something that I coach on too with my clients is that when you come to a coach, you're at whatever vibrational frequency you're at, and then you begin to up level and grow, and that changes how you operate in the world and the things that you see and your awareness and where you're at. And sometimes that can cause a little bit of a rift in a relationship with someone, and it's not because they're not trying to drag you down. In some cases maybe they are, like if it's a friend, right? But in most cases, they're not trying to drag you down when they're saying you've changed. What they're actually stating is an awareness of something feels different in you. I'm witnessing this. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is, but what they're saying on a deeper level is energetically you've shifted and you've changed. So I want to wrap this up with also saying that sometimes we call things in that we actually don't want. So another way that energy works is that if we are in a state of saying things like, maybe you say, everyone always needs something from me. Okay, that's like an energy that you're putting out in the world. Everybody always needs something from me. What I want you to realize is that your energetic power, because of the thoughts that you're having and because of the things that you're speaking into existence, are very powerful. So energetically, what you do is you send out this, think of it as like a waveform, right? Wave, whatever. And you start calling in to the universe, to this energetic field that everybody always needs you for something. So that's a frequency, right? Everybody always needs me for something. So what the universe turns around and does energetically is send you someone in your life that will always need you for something. Okay? This is where the mind and energy is so crazy, because then this person comes into your life and they need you for something all of the time. and you're exhausted, and now you've created this strong neuronal pathway of, see, everybody always needs me for something. It's the same kind of thing as a few episodes ago when I talked about how people will say, everything always goes wrong for me, or bad things always happen in threes. That's an energetic frequency that you're sending out into the world, and we don't realize sometimes the power in the tongue, okay? That you are much more powerful than you think, and that energy is a real thing you're working with all the time. You're working with energy. You are always attracting something in your life. The question is, are you attracting what you want? Or are you attracting what you don't want? That's the question, because we're always attracting, because your energy, I'm energy, everything in the world is made up of energy. So just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not real. We can't see the wind, but we feel it, right? We can't see oxygen, but we breathe it. So you don't see energy, but you can feel it. And with that being said, you're always manifesting something. You're always calling something in. So when you have this belief system, and this is why subconscious work is so powerful and why life coaching changed my life, because I needed to heal my subconscious patterns in order to operate at a different vibrational frequency. This is why I swear I will probably preach life coaching to the death of me, because if you are living in a circumstance that you hate and you don't see how to change it, it's because energetically and mentally you have not worked on the subconscious energetic connection of the human experience, okay? Like, it's truly a real thing, and we have to be aware of our energy and what we're calling in based on our subconscious thoughts and patterns. That's why this work is so very powerful. So when we have a thought like everything always happens in threes, you're sending out the energetic frequency that once the first thing goes wrong, now you're expecting energetically number 2 and number 3 to go wrong, right? And so the universe is just giving you what you're asking for. You're powerful. So are you asking more of what you do want? Or are you asking more of what you don't want? So if you're watching someone's life and you desire to be more like them, that means you have to get around them and absorb a lot of their energy, right? You're not going to be an energy vampire by any means, but get around them and see, what are they doing? How are they operating? What is their mindset? What things do they have programmed in their subconscious to be a 7? And what things do I currently have in my subconscious to be operating at a 3? And my friends are operating at a 3. So as long as I'm spending the most time with them, that's where I'm going to operate. But if I can get around those people operating like a 7, energetically, I'm going to start shifting to a 7. And so you just have to become aware of that, because if you're calling in, like you're saying things like, everybody always relies on me to fix them, you're going to be sent a person that's going to come into your life that you're constantly going to feel like you have to fix. And the reason that you feel that way is because you've quote unquote accidentally, because if you don't know, you don't know, right? Until you know this information, you don't know. But now you've attracted this person that you're constantly feeling like you're fixing them, and you're exhausted and you don't even want to be doing it. But energetically, you've called it in. You called it in. You said, I am always the person that feels like I have to fix people. Okay, and that sends out that little wave form, right, into the world. I'm probably calling that the wrong thing, but oh well. It sends it out, and then it comes back in with the person that you're always going to have to fix because you called it in. So I hope that this is helping you understand more about how energy works. And I could go on and on and on about this topic. In fact, I might have a part 2 to this podcast, a little bit more about the energy. And if you all have questions about this that feels unclear, please, pretty please send me questions, because that might help me get more clear on how to explain more of this in depth in the next episode, should I decide to talk about energy kind of part 2, because this can be a very in-depth topic on its own, like us calling things in energetically, how we operate in the world energetically. And I think something that I'm going to talk about even next episode is how to protect your energy and how to call in more of what you want versus more of what you don't want. But more importantly, like for me, I am always aware of, okay, if something is going awry in my life, how did I call this in? If something isn't going well in my life, I'm always looking at what subconscious belief or thought am I having that called this in, because energetically I'm attracting this somehow. So I need to figure out what the root reason is that I'm calling this in, especially if it's something that keeps happening over and over again. I need to look at that much deeper and say, okay, why does this keep occurring? There's a reason for this. There's a reason that this keeps occurring, and I'm calling it in energetically somehow. So I'm always looking at, okay, where do I want to go in my life, and how can I energetically get into that space, which is part of why I work with a coach that challenges me to think bigger than my current self now. Because if I'm operating at a energetic frequency of a 6, right, and I'm trying to get to a 10, I need to work with somebody who's at that energetic frequency of a 10, because while I'm operating as a 6, that's going to be most of what I'm able to see. So I need someone to challenge me energetically and pull me into their frequency so that I can grow and evolve and change and all of that. And some of it we can do on our own. You don't have to have a coach, but if it's in your awareness, what things are you going to do to grow? And same thing with protecting your energy. Like, there are people that I have had to set boundaries with, and I have a podcast on boundaries if you need to listen to that, an episode on boundaries, I should say, because energetically, you have to have that protection. There's going to be some people that you get around that are going to feel like vampire energy suckers because they really, really like your energy, but they don't know how to operate, shifting their own. And so sometimes we get around people who feel like they've absolutely drained us. And if you've probably felt this in your life, when you leave someone and you're like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. I'm going to have to go home and lay on the couch and recharge. I'm going to need to sleep and rest and just not be around people for the next 10 days. If you've ever felt like that, it's because you've been in a room of people that have drained your energy. So just as you can be given energy by hanging around people at a higher vibration, your energy can be sucked out of you by hanging out with people that are operating at a lower vibration. And it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. So let's get that real straight, really, really clear. It doesn't mean that one energetic vibration is more superior than the other. It's just about recognizing what energetically feels good to you. Where are you trying to go? Who are you spending the most time with? What things are you calling into your life? And if you're not happy with how something is going in your life, what can you look at to flip that energy around so that you're getting more of what you do want and less of what you don't? And that could include being around people, how you feel around certain things, your environment. There's so much to the topic of energy. That could just be a 2-hour long podcast. So please, if you listen to this podcast and you have questions, reach out to me on social media. Instagram is Macy Renee _. Facebook is Macy Renee. Sometimes the messages go in the other folder if we don't know each other. So I'll try to check that. You can also send me an email at macyreneecoaching@gmail.com if you have any questions or anything that you want to share, and I will be sure to add that to the next podcast if the next podcast is energy. So I hope that this helps you a little bit. This 30 something minutes went by really, really quick because, like I said, this is a complex topic, something I teach in depth to my clients. And it's definitely easier to explain when they are experiencing a more specific situation, because I can see, okay, you've attracted this into your life, or you're experiencing this into your life. This is probably why, because when I hear what their frame of mind is, what their thoughts are, and then what they've attracted, I'm like, oh, this makes perfect sense. In a podcast, it's a little bit harder to do that because I'm not working one-on-one with your specific scenario. So please feel free to message me any questions that you have. And I hope you have an amazing week this week, and I will see you next Monday. Bye-bye.